All right, guys, we're here with the tip of the day. This one's pertaining to brands, to licensed brands. You know, each state is different with their laws and how the brands have to operate. But in most states, for one way or the other, you may have to word it a little differently or structure it a little differently. For the most part, the lawyers can set it up to where you can get a brand licensing deal with a license holder. And I'm using the two words license separately. I say a license holder, meaning a cannabis license holder, and I say a brand license deal, meaning the brand licenses the likeness of their brand to the cannabis license holder. So this is a good approach to expanding your existing brand to new states that are coming online. For instance, at my company, we have an in-house brand that we just expanded out to Oklahoma, and we set up a deal with them where the license holder in Oklahoma is responsible for all production in terms of the raw material, the manufacturing of the product, the packaging, the fulfillment, distribution to the retailers, the collection on the accounts, and rinse and repeat. So he's going to do that, and that's what he's responsible for. Us as the brand licensed to them just mainly has to maintain the marketing and the brand awareness to the public. Their side of the partnership, they're providing the infrastructure and they're providing the license and the operations and the path to the stores, to the retailers. And what we're providing is just the brands and the brand image, the brand's likeness, and the brand itself, whether that be on social media, on YouTube, on live events, whatever. So the brand still has to provide support, do in-store demos, have their sales teams, do their marketing and their brand awareness. And in conjunction with that, you can really roll this plan out through a lot of states. And it's low overhead to the brand because you don't have to go out to each state and get new infrastructure, get new facilities, get new licenses, operational teams, all this stuff. So you have a lot that you can just focus on being the brand and actually spread your brand out. And then in the states that it really gets traction in, you can then further explore about expanding and getting a deeper base there and getting a foothold on your own license and just operating under your own license as a brand. That's one way to look at it. There's definitely downsides, as with anything in life. There's pros and there's cons, and there's definitely cons to that. You have someone else in charge of your quality, you have someone else in charge of your production, you have someone else in charge of your fulfillment. So if they drop the ball on any of this, it's the brand's face that's on everything. So they don't know that someone else is making it. So you have to make sure that if you are going to enter into a partnership on this, that these partnership deals are fair. And next, if after they're fair, that you have performance-based, stipulations in there that they have to meet these standards in order for them to continue being part of a deal. So these are a few things to watch out for, and you don't want to get taken advantage of either as the brand or as the operator. So having a fair deal to both sides, to me, is the key to these things working out. Because if you don't have a fair deal, then what's going to happen is the side that it's unfair to is going to start building a grudge against the other side, and then they're going to start slacking off in their performance or their responsibilities or duties or whatever it is that their promise was to bring to the table. So it's actually a bad deal for even the person that the deal's in the favor of to even enter into a deal that's skewed into your favor, because chances are the person you entered the deal in is going to figure that out, that it's not in their favor, or figure out how badly it's not in their favor. Over time, feel it's such a disadvantage that now you can't even have a partnership that you can count on because they're not actually in it because they didn't understand the deal from the beginning, or it was a one-sided deal. So it's good practice to just not even be involved in one-sided deals. And if you're entering into a deal where you haven't mapped it out fully and you're leaving a lot up to chance, then you're definitely going to run into issues. You're definitely going to have problems. You're definitely going to have setbacks and probably not make profit. So you want to really plan this out, map it out, think it out, and only get into partnerships that you can actually feel confident in, and map out everyone's clear expectations, map out everything that, if things don't go right, what happens? If losses are taken, how is that handled? If deadlines aren't met, what happens? What are the repercussions? So you want to think of all the bad stuff that can go wrong when you're entering into a deal too, because it's not always, when people are getting into the deals, they're all, happy and go lucky. And that's not how it is later on down the road, especially when times are getting tough. That's when everyone gets stressed out. The memories are skewed. Hindsight, they think they were at fault, or they think the other person was at fault. The other person thinks it was the other person's fault. So it's always he said, she said. So make sure to map it all out from the front, deal with good people, set up good deals, Don't try to get over on anybody, and just make a fair, reasonable deal that both sides can live up to, and then just live up to your sides. And then it's so easy to do good business. And that's what I don't get sometimes. It's like people can have these consistent, long lasting business relationships, and all they have to do is just put the deal points on the table and live up to those deal points. But too many times people put out deals that they're not willing to actually carry out, or they misrepresent deals, or they can't handle it when the times get tough, and now you're faced with having to carry the weight of two sides rather than just yours. So there's all different scenarios. That's why partnerships, you really want to be selective about it. And almost 9 out of 10 partnerships turn down, in a sense. It's better off to slow roll your thing, not jump into new things, whatever, and take it slow. Don't necessarily just get into partnerships with friends either. That's another red flag and another thing to pretty much almost avoid, in my opinion. The next piece is, in contrast to what I just mentioned as far as partnering for a license deal, the contrast to that is to owning your own license and putting out your brands under your own license. And the cons to this side would be that you now have multiple businesses to run, not just your brand. So the brand is its own business in itself to run, because you have, its full operations, accounting, marketing, demo days out in the stores, brand ambassadors, social media, content creation. So all these things, this is a full-time job. This is a full-time operation. So if you're juggling that, plus you have operations of a distribution company, manufacturing company, cultivation, or all of the above, or even just one or two of those, you're going to be juggling a lot. So you either need really good partners in all those licenses that you have, and make sure that everyone's playing their role, along with a solid team, a core team of compliance and operations people. Because if you don't have that team of compliance and operations people, you're not going to be able to do it all yourself and do the sales and attract new business and expand, and all these different things that need to be done in conjunction with the actual operations, in conjunction with the compliance, in conjunction with the taxes, making sure all this is done by these certain deadlines, doing everything according to all the new standards that come out, all the new rules and regulations, which a whole new breakdown of rules and regulations just came out recently. One of those is what I'm going to talk about on the news segment today. But anyway, point is, you have a lot more overhead and responsibility if you're going to operate your own license in order to have a brand that you own the license that the brand's under. But by doing that, you have a lot of independence. You're not reliant on any other license holder for the continuation of your brand. You have a lot more responsibility along with that. So it's always a trade-off. You can kind of bridge it with the both. The way I preferably do it is, I have all the different licenses necessary, but really the brands can operate under any of them. You could have a brand from a cultivation license. You could have a brand come out of a distribution license. You could have a brand off of a manufacturing license. You need all these licenses at some point in the supply chain, but you don't need to own them. So if you own or are partnered or affiliated with just one of them that you feel confident in, that you have good relationships with, that you can form a good partnership with, whatever, you can really put your brand out under that, and then utilize just white labeling solutions or preferred partnerships with these other license holders in order to carry out the other functions that your brand needs to take care of in order to get the supply chain to the customer. Some of these are things such as pre-roll manufacturing, cartridge filling, packaging in general, other product creations and packaging, and actually just getting them ready for the customers, and then getting them tested, getting them transported, getting them onto the retail shelves. These are all jobs that you could do yourself, especially if you had your own license to do it. But again, these are all points that now you're gonna have to take that whole entire responsibility of that function, that operation, and take full accountability and responsibility and make sure it happens over and over in a repeatable way consistently. So what I prefer to do is outsource that. Say for instance, fulfillment, I would outsource to a company such as Cannabis. And Cannabis, what they do is they're a software company that provides distribution services to California brands and allows the brand to really flourish as a brand. And Cannabis takes care of all the distribution overhead, the compliance, the transportation, the testing, the store pickups of the cash, the transportation of the new products. So all these things are handled outside of, the brand's needs. So if you have a manufacturing license, you could have flower transferred from a cultivator to your manufacturing license. In the manufacturing license, you could create pre-rolls, you could package it into flour, you could process the weed further, sift it for keef, water hash out of it, all these different things with your type 6 manufacturing. If you have type 7, you can do even more things with volatile extraction and butane extraction, all that stuff. But that's for a whole nother story. So let's just say you have the basic manufacturing license. You can still do a ton with that as a brand, and that will give you a lot of flexibility. But it's still just having the manufacturing license. You won't be able to transport it. You won't be able to test it. You won't be able to process the taxes on it. So you have to have another company do that for you. That's my example, such as with Cannabis. They'll come and fill in all those blanks for you from the distribution side. So now all you're focusing on is the manufacturing side. But let's shift for a second. Let's say you just have a distribution license. You are making pre-rolls. You can't make the pre-rolls with the distribution license if they're infused. Say you want to do infused pre-rolls as a distro license, you would source the flower you want to use. You would send it to the manufacturing license. The manufacturing license would make the pre-rolls for you. They would quote you a price on the production cost, but you're providing the materials. So you're just paying them a fee to roll your pre-rolls. Once the pre-rolls are done, you as a distro company can now come pick them up and either bring them back to your distro and store them there, or you can bring them and distribute them out to the retailers and just drop them off to your store accounts. And then as the distributor, you can come back and you can collect your money, you can collect the taxes, remit the taxes, you can take care of your testing. So all these things are important functions that if you as the brand can handle through your distribution license, that's one less thing that you have to let someone else handle. But these are also repetitive tasks that are going to take your time and energy away from other things that you could be doing as a brand. So that's why you want to weigh the cost of owning the license or just operating under the license. Or there's also, you could own the distro license just to have your flexibility, just to do what you want, but still outsource your distribution functions to another company such as Cannabis or something like that. So that's actually what I'm planning to migrate to, is even though I have a distro license, for the retail products that we start releasing, especially on the budget flower brands, is we're going to have Cannabis take the lead on the actual store fulfillment and distribution, because their infrastructure and their network and their reach is just so much, just vastly bigger. And just the operations, the manpower to make all that happen is a huge undertaking. So by taking that off your plate, you can really focus on being a brand. And if you're a large scale brand, you're gonna definitely want to have some licenses of your own, but you can still work under other licenses as need be, whether that be for different regions of the state or just for added flexibility. But this is a very important thing to understand, because you can save yourself a lot of time, hassle, loss, and expense, and really get your brand out there. My personal opinion is I like the idea where as long as you have at least one license, your distro, manufacturing license, they're usually the easiest ones to get. You can put the brand out underneath that. You can put the license number on the packaging, and that qualifies you to get the brand out into the market. So as long as you have that one license, you can always operate as the brand, and then you can always outsource the other functions to other white label solutions, other preferred partners. Get that taken care of outside of your direct control. That way you don't have to have the mind power and the bandwidth spent on it. So these are a few things about the brand. I get way more in depth on the content courses, and step by step I go through all the scenarios, how to lay it out, how to set it up, how to pull it off and operate it, and continue to operate it. And again, that's the whole point of those good partnerships, is you want to get in these partnerships where each person can carry their own weight. They can do what they say they're going to do, and they can do it consistently over and over and over again, year after year after year. And that's how you're really going to grow your brand and make this market penetration. And these brand partnerships with license holders, cannabis license holders in other states, are going to help that penetration into these new markets. And when you get into these new cannabis markets, it's like wide open. So a lot of these smaller states, they don't have the brand aptitude that the brands in California have. If you've been fortunate enough to be able to operate as a brand in California, going out to these other states, especially partnering with other licenses, it should be a welcoming experience, because you've been through battle here in California, and these other states are going to have their hurdles and stuff, but you should have had a very good exposure to what thick skin to the cannabis compliance market right now by operating in California already. So you can really capitalize on these new states by getting these brand partnerships early with the license holders, and then from there you can get into these early markets, and you can be the first brands on the shelves, to where these new legal and medical cannabis consumers are seeing the first brands that they see in a legal cannabis store for them is your brand. This is still possible to do, and there's still pretty much half the country that's not legal yet. So there's still room to grow. And as we'll get into on the news, there's a lot of changes happening, and the laws are continually, being adjusted, and it's something you have to adapt to. Each state's going to be different, but by partnering with people who already have the compliance piece figured out, the license holders, that will save you huge amounts of time, money, and effort. So I hope that helped. And next section, we'll go into the news and get you guys caught up on that. And remember guys, if you want to see more content such as these tip of the days, click the link above and it'll take you to the playlist where they're all located.